to the Bat Shlomo Winery, where today we're going to experience wine from all different perspectives. We're going to speak to the person who is in charge of the area. We'll see the vineyards. We're going to speak to the man who actually makes the wine. And of course to Elie, who's the entrepreneur who started this wonderful project. Come and join us.
Shalom everyone. We're here at the Bat Shlomo Vineyards in Bat Shlomo, in the center part of Israel near Zichron Yaakov. I have here with me a good friend, Elie Wurtman, who's going to tell us about his vision.
So I discovered Bat Shlomo quite by accident. It's a settlement from the first Aliyah from 1889, when Romanian religious Jews were returning to the land of Israel. It's 13 homes, a synagogue and a mikveh, and a one-room schoolhouse. And I fell in love with the place. And I said, this is the place that one must come to understand where the modern state of Israel started. But Israel's developed since then. And as you look around and the environment that we're in, we've made some progress. But I believe that by coming to this place and understanding the sacrifice made by people who came before us, cultivating the land, building homes in Israel, synagogues, is something that we could build upon. That we could bring young Israelis back to plant the land, to tend to the land, to take care of vineyards. This was always a wine village, and we thought it very appropriate to start a small winery here, a guest house, offer people food and wine, and they can appreciate where we are today. And I'm really happy to have you here, and hopefully you'll taste some wine as well.
Do you consider this a hobby or a center core component of what you do?
So for me, everything is kind of based on ideology, a love of the land of Israel, the people of Israel, the tradition of Israel, and restoring this property, but making it a living testament to our dedication to the land. And the produce, right, making great wine is core. So it's definitely not a hobby. It is a project of passion, of love, but also the fulfillment of a dream, right? The Zionist dream that we're all a part of today.
Elie, before the epidemic, the pandemic, how much were you traveling abroad? How many days a year were you traveling abroad?
I was probably outside of Israel 3 or 4 months a year.
Elie is a big businessman. Big. He's a big guy, but he has dealings around the world, and yet this became his passion. Zionism, connecting people, Jews from around the world and Israeli children, to the land, to understand the roots. That is his passion. Can you tell us a bit about your cooperation, your partnership with the Rebbetzen school?
Sure. So, for me, it is actually all part of one story. Entrepreneurship, building companies, building things in general is what I find very exciting. Building stuff in Israel, creating jobs, and connecting our society to creativity and to producing new ideas, new products, new things. For this project, I wanted to bring together young people. We have a tendency all over the world to outsource our agriculture. And the idea that through this project we could connect Israeli society back to the land and the love of the land was core to this project. And it was 10 years ago that I met a young entrepreneur who was starting a school called Rebbetzen for great kids that don't like to go to school. I don't know if you know anybody like that. I happen to know a few people like that. And the approach with Rebbetzen literally means clods of earth, right? So the namesake of the project is a love of the land, the piece of art here behind me.
Pieces of soil from all over Israel.
That's correct.
Dried soil.
864 tiles that represent the map of Israel. And this program is the essence of what we're all about, bringing young people. Today we have 150 young students who wake up every morning and work the land of Israel. They go back, they take a shower, they eat, and then they do their religious studies and their secular studies, 2 or 3 hours. And guess what? We have mensches, we have leaders, we have people who are becoming officers in the military here, but we also have people who love and care for our land and it's an amazing project, which is the heart and the essence of what we do. Every bottle of Bat Shlomo actually proudly displays the logo of the school, and to me it's the most important symbol. In the back we have all the important rabbis and the kosher labels, but the label of the logo of the school to me is the essence of what we are. It's about the people who care and love this land and are the society that we live in, and obviously represent the future.
Do you export to England, by the way?
We do direct export, so people order from us directly. We ship. In the past, we worked with a kosher wine importer. Maybe after this video, we'll work with them again.
But what message? You have a message. What message would you like to leave them with, all these people watching it in the United Kingdom?
The wine here represents much more than wine. It represents a commitment to our heritage, our tradition, our love of the land. And to me, for people who enjoy Bat Shlomo, and I really encourage you to come visit here, it is really representation of everything that I hold dear in terms of my values and my ideology, and the commitment to building an amazing country, and that we're constantly grateful to those who came before us, but that we are adding our layers on top of this amazing history and building a fantastic homeland for the Jewish people.
Elie, you inspire us. Can we drink a pre-Pesach l'chaim?
We definitely need to do that. Amen.
I was originally born in California near Napa Valley, and I grew up there, and I made Aliyah to Israel when I was 18, 19, and lived here for many years, but always had a passion for agriculture, and I loved wine, and I loved science and technology, and I decided and I also loved the lifestyle of agriculture and wine, and so I decided to move back to California and study winemaking in Napa Valley. I studied there at Napa Valley College and UC Davis, and then I worked there for 7 years at some very famous wineries, like Colgan, O'Shaughnessy, and I learned a lot. And I was on the cutting edge of technology and winemaking, and also the Masoret, tradition of winemaking. And that's it. And then I came back in 2010 and planted vineyards here in Bat Shlomo with Elie.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you planted your own vineyard. A dream come true for a winemaker, I presume.
Yeah.
What is special about the area here as far as grapes is concerned?
First of all, it's a very rich limestone, not rich, but very limestone soil with a little bit of topsoil. And what's special about it is that we grow it the way we want to, and the way we've always, the way I learned in California, and the way I've always dreamed of doing stuff here in Israel. And so there's a lot of the way we planted, the spacing of the rows, the way we grow the trellises of the vineyards, the way we don't spray for weeds, very sustainable, ecological. We're working with a special program for kids that are workers. So a lot of everything together.
We heard a little bit about that from Elie, which is very, very special with the Beit Sefer Regavim we work with. Can you, I'm sure this is a very long lecture, but if I wanted to know in very small points, from the grape till this bottle, what are the processes that happen? What do you do? How do you do this?
It's a very long process. It starts right now. Right now in the winter, we're pruning the vines, which means we cut back from last year, and the vines grow. We're watching every step of the way. Through to harvest. At harvest, we decide exactly when to harvest the grapes, and then take them to the winery, and we separate them from the stems. We sometimes smoosh them a little bit, so that the juice and the skins mix, and we put them in a tank like that. And while they're in tank, the juice takes out all the color and the aromas and the tannins, and we mix the juice with the skins. That's where all the aromas and tannins and polyphenols and all the good stuff is in the skins. So that's what we're doing during the fermentation. The yeast, they eat the sugar. And
how long is that process? Like how long is it tanks for?
It's about 2 weeks to 2 months.
Okay.
Depending on how much body, how much tannin, how much texture we want. And every day we come through and monitor the fermentation and monitor the yeast, make sure they're happy. And then we put the wine into barrel. And there it ages in French oak barrels. And from there, it's there for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 18 months, something like that. And then we make the blends. Each one, it stays together as a vineyard plot from the exact place it came from. And it stays together like that. And then we make blends between the different vineyards.
And we have in front of us a range. How many different sorts of wines do you have now in the winery?
Our main wines are Sauvignon Blanc, Rosé, and then we have two reds. But we also have some special projects that I like to work on, like we make an ice wine, which is a dessert wine made of frozen Semillon grapes.
Wow.
And we make an orange wine, which is a Chardonnay that's made like a red wine. We keep it on skins. We have a couple small fun projects.
So thank you very much. And this program is all about for Pesach. And we know that on Pesach on the table, you're supposed to have 4 cups of wine. And
Yes.
more and more families are understanding and appreciating it doesn't have to be your old Kiddush wine. It can be a really good bottle of wine.
It needs to be a really good bottle of wine. And these are all kosher for Pesach.
So wishing you a l'chaim and may your dreams come true.
Thank you.
So hello, we're here with Jody Martyr, who is the general manager of the Bat Shlomo Winery. And we're actually next to the vineyards. What's going on here, Jody?
Well, what's going on here? I'm standing in front of one of our newest vineyards, actually. These are all different types of red varieties that we planted. It will be almost 4 years now, so we'll be able to use the grapes this year. And it includes Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc. There's Mourvedre. And then in the far corner over there, if you could see that vineyard, that's the Chardonnay Vineyard. I actually was part of that planting many years ago when we first started the vineyard. There's 4,000 plants there. The Chardonnay Vineyard it's unique is also because all of our wines come from there. All the Chardonnay we make from there, so it's actually called an estate Chardonnay because it's all there. And what I like to talk about the Chardonnay is because it always is the first grape that we harvest. This usually happens in the middle of the end of July, middle of August. It depends on how hot it is during the year, because you don't want to have the grapes to be too ripe, because then the sugars are too high, and then you'll have alcohol will be too high. Right. We want to make sure, so we have to make sure that we pick the grapes as soon as they're at the right size and growth and alcohol content.
So from the minute you decide it's ripe, how long do you have? What window do you have as far as picking is concerned?
We try to do it within a few days, not even to a week or two. We try to start, and then we start the whole process going, and we realize, okay, then we do the Sauvignon Blanc, we'll do the Grenache for the Rosé, and then we move on to the red grapes. That's mostly these fields over here, all these vineyards here. These are our red grapes. The vineyard up on top of the hill there is all the grapes that we have in our Petit Cuvée blend. It's Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot. What you could see here, I'll move over a little bit if you want. You could see that even though there's a lot of growth here, that's also because it rained. And if you come to Israel during the winter, you know when it rains, everything just comes up really quickly. The growth is amazing in between the vines. But what we did was these vines are being pruned. They have to be pruned more. And what we do is we choose 2 branches off the vine, and those are the 2 branches that we keep after it's pruned. And then we grow those are trained on these wires here, and that's where the grapes will grow, hopefully.
And a lot of that work is done by the students that you were talking about.
Right, that work is done by the Regavim high school students under the leadership of Or, who's our vineyard manager. We don't use any pesticides in the vineyard, so that's why it looks like this, why it's so lush and green and full of growth. We make sure that it doesn't overgrow them, because we have to make sure that the grapes do get enough nutrition from the soil. And then we have the most amazing wines at the end. Thank you. So this is Betty's Cuvée. So just a little background before about the name. I don't know if anybody mentioned this yet. So when the Baron Rothschild came over to Israel and was helping settle and purchase lands for a Jewish country, and after he purchased, first he took over bought Zichron Yaakov, and he named that after his father Jacob, in memory of his father Zichron Yaakov. And then he understood that Jews like to drink wine, and they need wine for a lot of occasions, for Shabbat, for Pesach, Brit Milah, for weddings. It's a very important part of our culture, of our lives, of our traditions. So he was looking around this area, and with some top specialists that came over, I think also from France. And they were looking at the end of the street, and they looked down in the valley, and they said, "Oh, this is the perfect place to grow grapes. And that's where we're going to do it." And he called this little town Bat Shlomo. And Bat Shlomo is his mother. The Baron Rothschild's mother was Bat Shlomo, and she was Betty. So we called our fine wine, our finest red wine, Betty's Cuvée. And again, it's one of our finest wines. At least I think so. I like to drink it. I enjoy it, especially on a Shabbat meal, and I hope you will too one day. So, this wine was, this is 2018. It actually received from Robert Parker, wine advocate, by Mark Squires. We received the 90 points for it, which is a very, very respectable grade for white wines, especially. It's one of our top sellers, actually, the 2018. It's almost sold out. It's a wine that is in barrel for 10 months, but it's not. You don't really feel a lot of oak in there. It has. You can really, the flavors really come out when you're tasting it and drinking it. It's the type of wine that you can actually drink with any type of meal. You could have it with a dairy meal, fish, even a nice steak if you want, because it has such great tannins, such great body and flavors to it. It can really go with any type of meal. That's what I think. Rosé, it's 100% Grenache, made from Grenache grapes. Also, I think it's delicious. It's dry, crisp, and perfect wine for the summer, as well as your Passover table. One of the 4 cups. That's what we do in our family. We do a white, a rosé, a Chardonnay, and a red. So we get the whole wine. Right.
Pesach. 4 cups of wine. But actually, if we think about it, we meet wine also in our life circle and also in our year circle. Obviously, there's wine at a Brit Milah, and there's wine under a chuppah, wine before Shabbat, wine at the end of Shabbat. Why so much wine? What is our relationship with wine? So I want to bring a story from the Tanchuma, the Midrash, that talks about Noach. Noach was the first person that we know about that got drunk. When he came out of the ark, the first thing he did, we're told, is he planted a vineyard. But the Midrash, the legend, tells a story. And we know that these stories aren't necessarily true, but the question we should be asking is, what can we learn from this story? So the story goes that as Noach is about to do the vineyard, the Satan comes up to him and says, "Noach, I'm happy to help you. I'll be your cheap labor." And Noach looks at the Satan and says, "No, go away. I don't want you to come anywhere near me. What do you care? I'll help you work." The Satan suddenly comes and brings a little bit of blood of a lamb and sprinkles it over the vineyard. Noach gets really angry. "What are you doing?" He said, "Wait, I'll explain at the end." He then comes back with a little bit of blood from a lion and sprinkles that on top of the vineyard. he brings the blood of a monkey, and finally he brings the blood of a pig. And Noach says, "What are you doing, Satan? What is all this blood?" And the Satan looks at Noach and says, "You people, you think you're so clever. You start drinking wine, and at the beginning you're very lovely. You're like a lamb, feeling pleasant, feeling sweet. But you don't stop. You have a little bit more. And when you have that little bit more, you're like a lion. You feel you can do anything and everything. And it would be great if you stop there, but you don't stop. You continue drinking. And then you become like a monkey. And you start doing stupid things. And you don't stop there. You drink that little bit more, and you're like a pig that's rolling over in its own refuse." The Satan looked at Noach and said, "There's a lesson to be learned here. The idea of wine, the beauty of wine, is that when we have a little bit, it makes us feel good and appreciate the things around us. But we have to learn with wine the idea of moderation, that we should be in control of that and not that in control of us. As with all the brachot, all the blessings that we have in this world, all the physical things that we have in this world have the potential for good. But if we don't keep things within moderation, we use too much of it, we abuse it, well, then we destroy ourselves and the world. So as we drink our Kiddush, the word holy, we should be sanctifying, making the world a special place. So wishing everybody a Chag Pesach Kasher v'Sameach. Have a wonderful, wonderful Pesach. Enjoy your 4 glasses of wine. And please God, the wine you're drinking is wine that came from Eretz Yisrael, from the land of Israel, and therefore you can be enjoying the land of Israel as well. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.
So we've just had a wonderful visit in the vineyards of the Bat Shlomo Winery. We're here in between Zichron Yaakov and Yokneam on a rainy day in Israel, and I'd like to welcome you all and say thank you for joining us on this segment for US TV. Till next time, Shalom.